Good afternoon. Welcome to Zimbabwe Human Rights Monitors Platform. I'm Angeline Rutendo Mzingwa and I'm here with
Annah Sande, a human rights defender and a political activist from Zimbabwe. I remember facing some serious security threats before my election into council, when I was doing campaigns, and also after being elected and being recalled. One particular incident, it was a fight against land barons in Epworth, where I wanted to bring sanity to the land grab situation in my community, which has been a subject for suffering for many, especially women, orphans, and those vulnerable members in the community. They were losing their stands because land barons were capitalizing on their vulnerabilities. So I was taking a bold step where I wanted to use my council authority to bring sanity and resolve some of those issues, which is a stance that was not largely accepted by the bad boys in the community. And they started plotting on how best to get at me, and I survived 2 abduction attempts, all in which happened in Epworth, and I'm sure some of them, actually 2 of them are well documented in the media. However, I managed to escape because I had to relocate for some time. But while I was away, my uncle was abducted, and the people that abducted him were trying to force him to review my location where I was staying. They tortured him and forced him to drink poison, and they came and dumped him at home. So those were some threats that were posed, especially on my life. It is just by the grace of God that he managed to survive, but the real target, of course, was me.
It was you. Okay, so did you get any help?
It's difficult to say that I got help, because many of the times I tried to report these cases to the police, they were not taken seriously. And one of the saddest moments was when this case of the abduction of my uncle was reported to the police. The police did not bother to do any investigations in the matter, which weakened the case such that the perpetrators had to be acquitted. Just recently, this last month, they had to be acquitted because one of the reasons was cited that the state did not do any form of investigations. So even part of the challenges that I was facing, I was reporting to the police. The other time, they could not accept my reports. So in terms of that much of help, I do not think that our systems are ready to protect victims of human rights violations, especially when the perpetrator is from the ruling ZANU-PF part.
Okay. To what extent do human rights violations impede young women's engagement in political processes?
Definitely to a greater extent, because first of all, you are constantly living under fear that anything can happen to you. And sometimes young women are vulnerable because of a lot of things, the societal structures, the cultural structures within our society. You talk of the patriarchal systems that does not allow young women to have a voice. So when the spaces, like the political spaces where they want to participate, if that space is not as liberated as that want to be, and there are serious threats of violence, you tend to see that they even lose the support from their families. Most of the families always express a deep fear over their daughters participating in politics because of the risks that are associated. So if someone who is not bold enough to take up that route, and you lack the systems that protect you from the government side, from the political party side, from the society side, many young women take a back row seat to say, this is not for me, because the risks are way too much. We have seen the likes of Joanna Mamombe, Cecilia, and being abducted. We have seen how many women face persecution online, and some subjected to physical violence. There's another case of Honorable Tofa, who had her arm fractured as a result of political violence. So you see that when those stories keep making headlines in our country, young women definitely will shy away, or even run away from participating.
Okay, so what do you think should be done? Like, what measures should be put in place so that women can partake in political processes?
I think first and foremost, we have a constitution that speaks to equality of everyone having, for example, same rights in terms of either men or women participating, especially in decision-making processes. So what is lacking now is the political will to actually implement some of those provisions in our constitution. So the political will has to start first and foremost from the government side. To what extent are they willing to go an extra mile and push for the implementation of the already existing legislative roles? And then there's also the political parties involved, where men and women initially go as some introductory stages to the whole field. We need to ensure that these political parties are giving equal spaces for everyone to freely participate. And then we have the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, the Zimbabwe Gender Commissions, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, the Judicial Commission. These commissions, we demand and expect them that they perform impartially and treat every Zimbabwean with as much dignity and be fair in terms of how they execute their mandate, because at the end of the day, they are accountable to the people of Zimbabwe and not to any political party and so forth.
What specific responsibilities were entrusted to you during your tenure as the mayor of Epworth?
Okay. Firstly, the Urban Council's Act is clear on the duties of mayor or chairperson of a local authority, and part of those responsibility includes presiding over all council meetings, also playing an oversight role in terms of what the council business or how the council business is running. There's also the legislative part of it, whereby councillors have a responsibility to make bylaws. So also in terms of what the people of Epworth were expecting from me, the mandate was clear to speaking directly to the issues that are affecting the people of Epworth, which are a bit unique from what another citizen who is residing in a different local authority is. Number one, we have the issue of service delivery challenges, whereby our council takes time to upgrade, to the needs of the communities. For example, a majority of our residents do not have running water. People depend on wells to fetch water, and now it's difficult because of the climate change. Majority of these wells has since dried up, and Epworth is a bit of a rocky constituency. Like, there are so many granite rocks, so our water tables have been affected, which means that the local authority has to pace up in order to provide sustainable and innovative solutions to the problems that are directly affecting citizens or residents at the time that they are happening. And there's also the issue of crime rate, which is propounded by so many things like poverty in the community. There's lack of opportunities. We don't have a functional industry side. Those are some of the issues that were confronting me as a young mayor, or as a mayor from Epworth. And then there's also the issue of young people not having a voice in decision making. It took a while for us to elect a youth in the council, or later on at a very authoritative position. So I was like at an intersectionality of problems, but also having the ability to connect with the people and having the ability to also create platforms where residents were informing policy action, thereby coming up with solutions that would affect on everyone's satisfaction.
Okay. So did you face any obstacles in trying to fulfill all these things?
Yes, I did. Regrettably, I was recalled barely a month into office. I think I had only officiated maybe 2 official council meetings, even though I had managed in that space of time to interact with as much stakeholders as possible within the community. I was not able to fulfill my mandate because I was illegally recalled from the office of the mayor so quickly. So I think that was the first setback that not only myself faced, but the Epworth community as a whole, which was very unfortunate. And even now we are still trying to get justice as the cases are still pending in the courts of laws. We can only remain hopeful and resolute.
And then what were the prevailing challenges experienced by the residents of Epworth, particularly concerning the delivery of essential services?
Yes, I think I've managed to respond to some of the challenges. Maybe we can talk of the issue of development. It is a very topical issue in the community of Epworth because people, most of the settlements, we actually came about before due processes were made. For example, to be specific, regularization processes before they were made. So we are in the process of trying to transitioning from what they used to call squatter settlements to proper regularized settlements. So that whole process is taking many years to complete, and within that period of completion we have seen that some of the residents are being victims of land barons in the community. So it is a problem that is also threatening the lives of many other residents, and majority of the victims are women, widows, people who are old-aged, and orphans, which is something that really needs all stakeholders to put their heads together so that we come with an amicable solution to that issue.
So what policy recommendations do you propose to enhance accountability within municipal councils regarding service provision?
Okay, so first and foremost, I would suggest that let's start with the laws that are already in existence.
Okay.
Before we try to bring new things or new laws, let us try to ensure that the already existing laws are being fulfilled in terms of implementation. That's the first thing. And the second thing, I would suggest performance appraisals, especially for council staff. I'm sure that other local authorities are a bit ahead, and then other local authorities are still lagging behind. We talk of rural district councils. Sometimes in terms of legislative protocols, they might be a bit behind because of also the nature of the environment in which they are operating in. But I feel that the government institutions, especially the parent ministry, the Minister of Local Government, must ensure that there is equity in terms of performances and what is required in most of our local authorities. We don't want the big brother, little sister syndromes whereby only the big cities are first considered for development, for example, of infrastructure, of roads, of science and innovation. We also need to ensure that even those local authorities that are still trying to go have got the adequate needs that they need for them to fully function. So I think that would be my suggestion for now.
Okay, so about the laws that you mentioned earlier, what if the government is not doing anything and will not do anything in the coming near future?
Maybe if the current government is unwilling to fulfill its constitutional mandate, that is to save the people of Zimbabwe, maybe it's time for a change of government. Maybe we should have another government that will heed to the constitutional call to save its people and respect the law.
Okay. So I think this is the end of our interview, and I want to thank you for coming and doing this with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.